Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your source material, plunge right in, and pull out the knowledge you need.
And today, we're tackling something huge, negotiation. It really does touch every single part of life, doesn't it?
It really does. Not just, big business deals. It's family stuff, work colleagues, even arguing with yourself sometimes.
Totally. And our guide for this, a really fascinating source, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Yeah, this guy was the FBI's lead international hostage negotiator. Talk about high stakes.
Exactly. So our mission here in this deep dive is to basically pull out these core strategies,
Right.
things Voss and his team used in, well, literal life or death situations.
And see how we can actually use those, maybe adapt them for, our everyday lives, work, relationships.
That's the plan. How to handle conflict better, persuade more effectively, just communicate better.
And the hook, the really interesting part, is this idea that you can get what you want, maybe hear yes, but not by being pushy.
Right, maybe without saying much at all. And
Yeah.
maybe even learning to like the word no.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So where did Voss even come up with this stuff? Not your typical MBA program, I'm guessing. Oh, definitely not. This was forged in the fire, the intense, super unpredictable world of hostage negotiation.
Right, and there's that amazing story early in the book. It sets it up perfectly. Voss, coming from this crisis background.
Yeah, he gets invited to Harvard, to their program on negotiation, and he ends up in this, role-playing thing.
With absolute giants of traditional negotiation theory. Professors Mnookin and Bloom, they literally wrote the book on it, some might say.
Pretty much, they represent that Harvard method,
Yeah.
all about rational theory, BATNA, Zope, logic, process.
Focusing on interests, finding mutual gain, that whole thing. The idea that everyone's rational, sitting down to solve a problem.
Right, so in the role play, the professors are the bad guys. They say, we've got your son Voss, give us $1 million or he dies. Standard dramatic stuff for a simulation.
And they're expecting him to counteroffer, right? Or argue the price, use some logical tactic. You'd think so. But Voss, he doesn't play that game, doesn't offer a number, doesn't debate. He just looks at them, apparently very calm.
And asks,
How am I supposed to do that?
just like that?
Yep. Followed by, how am I supposed to get you any money right now, let alone $1 million, if I don't even know he's alive?
Wow, so he flipped it, took their threat and made it their logistical problem.
Completely stumped them, according to the book. They were ready for this rational chess game, But Voss brought psychology.
Because the FBI knew something fundamental. Humans aren't always rational, especially not under pressure.
Exactly. We're emotional, impulsive, driven by fears, needs, perceptions. Logic it breaks down sometimes.
So the FBI system wasn't built on business theory. It was built on what? Psychology, crisis intervention.
Counseling, yeah. They weren't just negotiating deals, they were negotiating people. And the amazing thing was, these techniques for saving lives.
They work everywhere else, too. Business, salary talks, getting your kids to clean their room.
Pretty much. It's communication, but communication with results. That's the tagline.
Okay, so how do we do it? What are the strategies?
Right, let's get into it. Strategy number 1 is all about mastering tactical empathy. Voss calls it listening as a martial art.
Tactical empathy. Okay, sounds intense. Is it just about being sympathetic or pretending you agree?
No, that's the key thing. It's not sympathy. It's about recognizing the other person's perspective, their emotions.
And then actually saying it. Vocalizing that you get where they're coming from.
Exactly. You don't have to agree with them at all, but you show them you understand their world, their feelings, what's driving them right then.
Okay, got it. Understanding their view, showing you understand, even if you think they're wrong. Why is that so powerful?
Well, there's some cool psychology. The book mentions neural resonance. Basically, when you listen well, your brain activity can actually start to mirror the speakers. You get on the same wavelength. But even more practical is labeling. Just giving a name to an emotion you see. It seems like you're frustrated, or it sounds like you're hesitant.
And just naming it helps.
Yeah, it actually shifts brain activity, moves it away from the fear center, the amygdala, towards the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part. You're literally calming them down by naming the feeling.
Wow. Okay, just putting words to it can de-escalate things inside their head. That's huge.
It really is. It validates their feeling without actually agreeing with their argument.
Yeah.
So, okay, how do we put this into practice? Voss gives us tools. First up, your voice.
Ah, yes. The 738-55 rule. How you say it matters way more than the words. Tone is 38%, body language 55%, though body language is tricky on a call.
Exactly. And he highlights two key voices. First, the late-night FM DJ voice.
Okay, describe that.
Calm, slow, with a downward inflection at the end of sentences. It projects, like, control and reason. Very soothing, very serious when needed.
Right. And the other one?
The positive, playful voice. That's your default. Easygoing, light, encouraging. Smiling while you talk. Even on the phone it comes through. Builds rapport.
I remember that Turkish bazaar example. The girlfriend got better deals just by using that positive, smiling approach, priming the interaction.
It works across cultures, situations. Okay, next technique. Mirroring. This one feels almost too simple.
Mirroring, you mean just repeating their words?
Pretty much just the last 1 to 3 critical words they said.
Okay, wait. Doesn't that sound, I don't know, a bit weird, like you're mocking them or not really listening?
It feels awkward at first, definitely. But there's a reason it's so powerful. It taps into that whole birds of a feather instinct. Similarity builds trust, even subconsciously.
So it makes them feel like you're on the same page somehow.
Yeah, and practically it encourages them to say more, to elaborate, help me understand. Plus, it buys you time to think. Crucial time.
Ah, okay. So it's a gentle prompt for more info while you process. The waiters study 70% higher tips just by repeating orders. That's pretty convincing.
It's wild, right? A bit of a Jedi mind trick, like the book says.
Definitely feels like one. Okay, so mirroring and then building on that is labeling.
Exactly, which we touched on, using phrases like, it seems like, or it sounds like, or it looks like.
To name the emotion or the situation you're picking up on, it seems like you're feeling under pressure, or it sounds like the deadline is a concern.
Precisely. And remember that calming effect on the amygdala? The Harlem fugitive story is such a powerful example. High stakes.
Right. Voss talking through a door to this guy, terrified of going back to jail.
For 6 hours. Just listening and labeling the fear. It seems like you don't want to go back to jail. Naming that core fear, validating it.
Without agreeing he shouldn't go back.
Right. And over those hours, it just diffused the whole situation.
Yeah.
Led to a peaceful surrender.
Shows the power of just feeling heard, even if the facts don't change.
Yeah.
What about the Girl Scout example? That seems more everyday.
Yeah, the student dealing with a resistant donor. She labeled the hesitation. She sensed, I'm sensing some hesitation. And later, she dug deeper. It seems like this isn't about the specific projects.
And that helped the donor realize her real issue. It wasn't the projects. It was her connection to the overall mission.
Exactly. Labeling brought the hidden issue to the surface. So the takeaway is, use neutral phrases, it seems like, and pause, let it land.
Right. Silence is key after a label. Gives them space to respond, confirm, correct, reveal more.
Absolutely. And one more technique under this empathy umbrella, the accusation audit.
Ooh, that sounds intense. Listing the worst things they might be thinking about you and saying them first.
Yeah, like you're probably going to think I'm being difficult, or you might feel I haven't thought this through.
Why would you do that? Seems counterintuitive.
Because it diffuses the negativity before they can voice it. You take the sting out of it, shows you're self-aware, and often they'll actually backpedal or deny it.
Like an inoculation against criticism. Yeah.
So tactical empathy. Listen for emotion, show you understand using mirroring and labeling, and maybe even preempt negativity with an accusation audit. It builds trust, calms things down.
Creates the space for the actual negotiation. Okay, makes sense. So we've listened deeply. What's next? Strategy 2 is about guiding their thinking.
That's right. You've listened, you've shown empathy. Now, how do you start steering things? The main tool, calibrated questions.
Calibrated questions. And these are mostly how or what questions.
Exactly. Open-ended questions designed to make the other person think through a problem, often from your perspective, or to get them to explain their constraints or desires.
Like Voss back at Harvard. How am I supposed to do that? He didn't demand proof of life. He asked them how he could possibly pay without it.
Perfect example. You're not giving answers, you're asking questions that make them generate answers, often answers that help you. It avoids simple yes-no dead ends.
And it gives them the feeling of control, right? Because they're the ones talking and figuring things out.
Precisely. While you're actually framing the conversation. The Ryan B. airline example is another great one.
Oh yeah, the student trying to get on the totally full flight to Austin.
Right. He built rapport, first labeling the agent's stress, mirroring stuff she said about the big game. Then, instead of demanding a seat, he just asked.
How am I supposed to get to Austin?
Exactly. He made his problem her problem to solve, but collaboratively. And because he built that connection, she wanted to help and she found a way.
That's smart. You're not demanding, you're inviting them to be a hero, basically. And the how questions can also be a gentle no.
Yes. Instead of just saying, no, I can't do that, you can say, that's interesting, but how am I supposed to make that work with our current budget?
Or how can we possibly hit that deadline given the other priorities?
Right. You're highlighting the obstacles and inviting them to suggest solutions that might actually fit your constraints. Shifts the burden without being confrontational.
Makes it feel like joint problem solving. And the book says steer clear of why questions.
Generally, yes. Why did you do that? Often sounds accusatory, puts people on the defensive immediately.
Unless you specifically want them to defend something that benefits you, like, why would you ever switch from us?
Exactly. Otherwise, stick to how or what. What caused you to choose that option is much less confrontational than why did you choose that option.
Got it. So calibrated questions. Use how and what to get info. Uncover those hidden issues, the black swans, and guide the conversation by making them think through your problems. Make them feel like they came up with the solution.
You got it. Which flows nicely into the third strategy, and this one messes with people's heads a bit. It's embrace no.
Embrace no.
Ling.
Okay, yeah, that sounds completely backward. Aren't we always supposed to be getting to yes?
That's the traditional thinking, sure. We're taught to fear no,
Right.
see it as failure, rejection, push, push, push for yes.
So why does Voss say no is good?
Because saying no to something really important for the other person, it gives them a sense of safety and control. When they can say no, they feel empowered, not trapped.
Okay. Safety and control. What else?
It lets them clarify what they don't want, which is super valuable information for figuring out what they do want. It slows things down, prevents rushing into bad agreements.
And it means they're actually engaged, right? Not just passively agreeing.
Absolutely. A quick, easy yes can often be what Voss calls a counterfeit yes.
A counterfeit yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to...
As opposed to a commitment yes, a real agreement that leads to action, or just a simple confirmation yes, like, A counterfeit yes is when someone says yes just to escape the conversation.
to make you go away, basically. With no intention of actually doing the thing.
Exactly, like the Daryl story from the crisis hotline. Voss used perfect logic, got Daryl to agree, say yes, there was no reason not to go outside. Daryl even complimented him.
But he didn't go outside.
Nope, he just wanted off the phone. The yes was useless because it wasn't a commitment.
Ah, okay. So pushing for a quick yes can backfire spectacularly. Inviting a no feels more genuine.
It allows for a more genuine interaction, builds trust because they don't feel railroaded. Think about the telemarketer example.
Instead of, do you have a few minutes? Which
Yeah.
gets that reluctant, yes, I guess.
Ask, is now a bad time to talk? If they say yes, it is, great, you got an honest answer, you can reschedule. If they say no, it's not, they've consciously opted in. Much better starting point.
That makes a lot of sense. And the political fundraiser example was striking too.
Yeah, the standard script aiming for yes did okay, but the script that deliberately prompted no answers.
Like, do you feel America's best days are ahead if things stay the same? And people say no.
That script had a significantly higher success rate. Putting the donor in the driver's seat, letting them say no to the status quo, made them more receptive.
And Voss even warns that if you never hear no, that can be a red flag.
Right. No means no go. If someone just agrees to everything, they might be confused, indecisive, or maybe hiding something. You need that pushback to know where they really stand.
So strategy 3, don't run from no. Welcome it. It gives them control, clarifies things, and builds the foundation for a real, solid agreement. Because persuasion is really about them convincing themselves.
Exactly. So let's quickly recap this deep dive into never split the difference. 3 big strategies, pulled from hostage negotiation, but totally usable day to day.
1, master tactical empathy. Really, listen, mirror their words, label their feelings to show you understand, build that connection.
2, guide their thinking. Use those calibrated how and what questions. Get them involved in solving the problem, subtly guide the conversation.
And 3, embrace no. Don't fear it. Use it. Let it give them control, start the real conversation, and lead to genuine agreement.
Yeah, these aren't just clever tricks, they're deep communication skills based on how humans actually operate emotions, perceptions, not just logic.
It's about, as the book says, negotiating in their world, making them feel like the solution was their idea all along.
And fundamentally, it reframes conflict. It's not just something bad to be avoided. Managed well, conflict can actually be productive. It can uncover truths, spark creativity.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. If you start seeing conflict not just as a fight, but as a potential pathway to creativity and resolution, well, how might that change how you walk into your next difficult conversation?
Something to think about. Until our next deep dive.